The 6.5 is on the road here at Microsoft Ignite 2024. We are in Chicago and we have been talking enterprise AI for the entire week. And Daniel, you know, what's incredible to me is the multiple modalities that Microsoft brings to the table for enterprise AI. Whether you're a user, an IT professional, a developer, if you want to consume it differently, if you want to consume it IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, they pretty much have everything for you.
Yeah, the week has been very interesting. It's been palpable, the amount of launches, disclosures, new technologies, products, and of course, kind of tying this all together around a blanket of security and responsibility. You know, we had the chance, you and I, to spend some time with Satya, and it was really good to sort of get the lens from him, taking it from left to right. And then, of course, for everybody out there, you know, we had many Microsoft executives in here, Scott Guthrie, others have come and joined us to talk across the portfolio, hardware, software, platforms, developers, security, responsibility. And so it's been a really big week, and for everyone out there, I think it's a lot to consume, so hopefully we can help break that down.
Yeah, for sure, and Azure AI was a big one, and one of the things that Microsoft always reinforced was, okay, there's all this great stuff you can do, here's how you can do it, but it's buttressed by not only security, but also governance, responsible AI. And you know, out of one side of the mouth, they'll say, well, of course, enterprise, that's top of their mind, but if you're delivering consumer services, that's important to you too. It's pretty much important to all of these companies.
You had me at buttressed.
Okay, there we go. That's a real word. With that said, I'm pleased to introduce Asha and Sarah. Great to see you. First time on the 6.5. I know it's been a huge week. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's great to have both of you. I've followed and watched both of your work over the last few years. Generative AI has, you know, kind of risen into the consciousness of the whole world in 2 years. It's changed everything from economies and markets to, of course, our tech sector. You know, Asha, I'd love to kind of get that first take from you. I mean, you know, 2 years ago, ChatGPT, Microsoft made this big partnership announcement, exploded onto the scene. Now we've got multimodal. We've got just so much change and innovation. You know, talk about kind of how you see its evolution over the last year and your customers. How are you seeing them evolve?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild year.
Yeah. Couple of years.
Yeah, this year feels like 10 years. But it's been tremendous. I mean, if you think about it, we were releasing a model every 6 weeks not too long ago, and now there's a new one almost every hour that's coming out. There's more than 1,800 models on our platform alone, and we're seeing the rise of open source models, task-based models, industry models. And I think what we're seeing is the intelligence is starting to mirror more of human intelligence. So different modalities are, you know, extremely popular right now, and I think we're going to continue to see that. We're also seeing the rise of agents everywhere, right? So instead of these simple POCs, our customers want to automate, you know, all of the workflows. And so more and more, I think applications are going to start to become really dynamic, and they're going to learn and iterate over time. And so we're seeing lots of customers move in that direction. I think last season was the season of experimentation and prototyping, and now this is the season of production and scale and, you know, figuring out how to do that responsibly, which, you know, we spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, I think we've also really seen the rise of the importance of trust in these systems. So Microsoft's been working in responsible AI for a very long time now, and you know, we've been talking about why this is important, but really in the last year we've seen the rest of the world fully understand that. And so now when we talk to enterprise organizations, you know, one of the first things they're asking about exactly is, what are the risks I need to you know, address here? How do I address those effectively? How do I govern my systems? And that's, of course, increasing even more this year as AI has started to become regulated, and we're seeing, you know, laws appear around the world. We're focused a lot on the EU AI Act coming into force this year, and so lots more interest and questions from customers about how they get AI to be regulation ready.
Yeah, so Asha, I'm a recovering product person. I did that for 20 years before I created my analyst firm, but I'm thinking through the rate of change and how you would put a product strategy against this, something that might have to have legs for 5 years. I'm just wondering, like, how are you evolving? Like, what's your strategy to keep up with the change, deliver the innovation, and stay within I would say the box of responsible AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's figuring it out as we go. We are in that boat as well. Consumption on our platform for Azure OpenAI service has doubled in the last 6 months alone. And so when you start to see numbers like that and usage like that, it's a fun challenge. The way that we think about product shape and product strategy is a fewfold. One is, I don't think about it in 3 to 5 years. I think about it in seasons, and seasons are marked by secular changes. And the secular change we're kind of in the middle of is every developer is going to be an AI developer. Every organization is going to want to customize their application to get a set of outcomes, so the value, the cost, et cetera. Every organization is going to need to start to think about trust by default and not as an afterthought. And so we feel this new season. That's why we introduced a new platform this week called the Foundry. And the idea is that, hey, there's going to be, everybody is moving in this direction. How do we have the building blocks for everybody? How do we make sure it's modular? How do we make sure it's open? So as things change, we're not boxed in, our customers aren't boxed in, and they can kind of learn and grow.
Yeah, and on the trust side, one of the things that's so great about doing this as Microsoft is that we ship maybe more AI than any other organization on the planet. And so we get to learn from our own experiences also on what's working, what's not working, and that allows us to have a really tight iteration cycle of trying out kind of new innovations in the space. And so while it feels like we're changing really quickly and we're constantly experimenting, everything starts with our AI principles, which haven't changed. And so we've always been grounded in what we're trying to achieve with the AI system. And then we're just regularly experimenting with how and what is the latest technique for that. And actually, one of the coolest things about generative AI technology is that it's actually been a huge breakthrough for how we can do responsible AI. It's a really important tool. For example, our Azure AI Content Safety, which is the safety system we put around all of the generative AI models that we ship, that's built on the latest generative AI technology, and it would not have been possible to do that a couple years ago. And so we experiment with the new techniques, but the foundation is still the same.
Yeah, so it sounds like architecturally, putting together the right architecture that builds in flexibility on the things that are going to fundamentally change over time. And that's a lot harder than just putting something out there that might have legs for a year and then, let's rebuild it when something new happens.
Yeah, but we're building on the foundation we already have. So for example, for a long time we've been talking about zero trust architectures. That's something that still applies now, and we just adapt it for what does it mean in the world of AI, but we're not starting from scratch on any of this.
Yeah.
So Asha, let's pivot to the developers a little bit more deeply. A couple product people here, right? You guys want to talk about
I'm
that for a minute?
former product person.
Oh, come on. But you all had a big slate of announcements, and some of them were very centric to developers. Do you want to share just a little bit about kind of what were the announcements that developers should be really excited about? Maybe a little bit more on the Azure AI Foundry, because that seems like a really big opportunity and something developers, if they're not paying attention to, need to be.
Yeah, so we envision a very focused world of every application becoming an agentic application. And in order to build that, host that, and run it, and scale it, and secure it, that's what Foundry is for. So Foundry is modular, it's flexible, you can bring your own data, you can bring your own tools. We want developers to use what is most familiar to them and what is most helpful. So that's a big thing that we announced. We announced partnerships with Weights and Biases, StatSig, Gretel, a number of others in the ecosystem. I think the second thing worth knowing is the SDK. And so, we're starting to think a lot about how do we make sure that when you're building your application, we make it super simple to get set up, to go, and as the models change, as the technology changes, you just have one simple place to actually go and grab all these libraries. Third thing that we talked a lot about is just meeting developers where they are. We have the world's largest and most loved IDEs. Why make them go somewhere else when they're in the flow of development? And so we announced a number of tools around that. Specifically, I'm very excited about RAG coming into GitHub. All right, the model is only as good as its memory, and I think that's what RAG we've seen in the world does. And then we made a number of announcements around safety that I think will be very important too for developers.
Yeah, one of the things we want to do with Foundry is make sure that when developers are adopting AI, they're starting from the safety and security best practices by default. So for example, Azure AI Content Safety that I mentioned is integrated by default around models. So they already have that best practice of a safety system built there, but then they can configure it in the way that it makes sense for their application. And here at Ignite, we launched a couple new things that I'm really excited about. A really important part about developers being successful and being able to really use this technology is the ability to evaluate it successfully. And so we've been investing a lot in tools to make it easy to evaluate applications for quality, but also for risk and safety. And so one of the things we announced here is bringing that capability also for images now. So not just being able to test text, but as Asha said, multimodal is a huge area that we're seeing growing adoption. And so, we bring our evaluation suites there. The other thing, I mentioned regulation earlier. People are really focused on how do they govern their AI systems. And so we announced AI reports, which is bringing some of the key things you need to document about your AI system forward so that you can use it. And we have great partnerships with Credo and SciDot that we just announced to integrate with our governance pieces that we're developing in the Foundry so that they can have those great compliance workflows, and you can take those even to different clouds and things.
Yeah. So, Sarah, I've chronicled multiple inflection points in the industry, and I think we all have. I mean, there was social, local, mobile, there was the web, there was e-commerce, and every one of these shifts, there were a lot of variables that went into adoption, but there was the, what can it do for me, how much does it cost, and can I trust it? I remember when e-commerce first came up, literally like 95% of people did not trust putting their credit card in on the web. And I think here with AI, it's very clear. I mean, I talk to enterprises all the time, and the second or third thing they might talk about is trust after what it can do for me. And in consumers, I saw some numbers that were thrown around that 72% of consumers actually were interested in a company's policy on this. How can companies increase the level of trust with their constituents?
Yeah, so obviously, one of the things is to build with the best practices, and Foundry is a great start to helping you do that. But another element is for an organization to provide the right level of transparency. So Microsoft, for example, we do this at multiple levels. Our responsible AI standard is something that we actually published several years ago so people can see the standard we're holding ourselves to. But then we also want people to understand how we put that into practice. And so we just this year published our first transparency report, which talks about how Microsoft does our responsible AI practice in many different dimensions. And another thing we've been doing for a long time, though, is then how does the specific technology work? And so we, of course, have security commitments and privacy commitments and all of those things we make public. But another thing we do is for the AI models we develop, we put out a transparency note that tells you what the model does well, what you should think about when picking a use case, what are the different risks that you might need to address, so that we're transparent about how we built it and what we know about it so you can use it successfully. And then, of course, you want to design the user experience to bring those users in and help build trust. And so we have something called the Hacks Toolkit that puts those user experience best practices out so people can adopt them as well. And so you have to think about this multi-layered approach of how you're building trust and having the right level of transparency.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We're in this sort of super speedway right now of how fast you go and what kind of car do you put on the track. I love that, but because you can go as fast as you want, but at the same time, risk responsibility is kind of that gating factor. And it seems that there's a continuum, not just within tech, but also geographically driven.
Yeah.
We see sovereignty issues across different spots and parts of the world. Like in the US, I think we're kind of a go part of the world. And we'll kind of figure it out we broke the rule, oh, let's pull it back. Whereas in other parts, they're like, we're not going to try. And so you guys have to sort of enable that part of the world, which is kind of this interesting construct because everyone wants to do it, but how fast we go is really to be determined.
Yeah, one of the things, because people often are bringing up this, the trade-off between kind of how quickly you move and responsibility. And I mentioned that Microsoft has been doing our responsible AI practice for more than 8 years now, and so we've been working for years to make sure that we can go fast and that we can innovate, because it's a bad situation when you have to feel like it's a trade-off, right? So we don't think of AI innovation separate from responsible AI innovation, because it's also part of just building a quality product. Like, users don't want a product that's doing something that they don't expect or has errors, right? It's just how you need to build AI. And so a lot of our innovation has been about removing that trade-off and having it really be, this is just the way you build AI, and you're not thinking about, if you want to take more risk or not, because we're going to make it such that you can innovate and have appropriate risk at the same time.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, like, at the end of the day, there is no business without trust. There's no AI without trust. And I think it's the most important feature, not constraint. Like, I think it drives growth. I think it drives the ability to meet customer needs. And so I very much agree with what Sarah said. I mean, Sarah's team builds all of our evaluation capabilities. They are helping customers just build the best quality application, which includes safety, it includes security, includes all those things. And when you think about it that way, gosh, it is like the thing that will drive the next frontier, not, it not hold it back.
And it's definitely a differentiator for Microsoft, because Pat and I track a lot of companies doing AI, and I don't think that's universally the case. I'm just being candid. Like, there's a lot of companies that are going as fast as they can and then kind of looking at, how do we fix this now that it's broken?
Yeah, and Sarah's org is they are, building the products. They're not a separate,
monitoring
compliance team that's like coming out. No, they are reinventing their own processes, reinventing their own products every single day. And so I think that mentality is also good, where if you put it on the site, it will be a site. If it is a core part of the product and everything we build in the platform, then it will be that.
So
I think this is also one of the things that's important. I feel very much about Microsoft moving quickly in this space, because we want to set the standard to say, this is just what's expected, right?
Yes.
And the people that are out there first are setting the standard. And so, it's important to have industry standards and regulations and things that kind of holds everyone to the same bar. But we want an existence proof of what's possible, and that this thing doesn't need to be a trade-off, and make sure that customers in the world demand that of tech organizations.
So let's wrap this thing up talking about agents. Agents and agentic has sort of come into we talked about AI rising into the consciousness in the last 3 to 6 months, though all of a sudden agents are all the thing. They're the future of apps. Enterprise apps are going to go away. Agents are going to replace them. There's different theories. I'm not saying I agree with all this, but I do have a thesis that well-designed, you guys sort of are meeting the moment of where RPA sort of always let people down, and the intelligence of AI can come together to actually do what automation has long been intended to do. So this is evolving quickly. Asha, I'd love to just get your kind of take. How quick does this go? What are the capabilities with agents that you're most excited about? And can you share, how do you see this changing the app ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it will move quickly. I think we're already seeing it. I think we'll start to see, agents come closer to the models themselves. I think we'll start to see, agents completing micro tasks almost wherever it makes sense. Like, I don't think about them as this crazy kind of world of agents out there that's really scary that you hear about. I just think about all the things that we do that could be automated so you can spend time doing other things. And so I think everything from how we write the applications themselves to how we run the applications to what applications do for customers will change. But I personally believe the app construct will stay. I just think they will become more intelligent. They will learn with you. They will improve, and they will do things, on your behalf or assist you in ways that I think they can't today.
But this is only going to be possible if we get the trust part right.
Yep.
Because if you're having a system take actions on your behalf, then you really need to trust it. And of course, with the systems taking actions in the real world, not just printing text on a screen, then the impact of an error can be a lot higher. And so this is a space where we're spending a lot of time in extending the guardrails and the foundation we already have, the evaluation systems, but looking at how we adapt this to the agent use cases we're seeing today, and of course where we want to go with the technology.
Well, hopefully the agents can keep me from continuing to hallucinate off of the planned questions. I love this. Sarah and Asha, I want to thank you both so much for joining us here on the 6.5. Great conversation. I think we found a couple hot buttons too.
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
So we're both very, very excited. It sounds like with everything that's going on, and we're excited to hopefully have you back again soon.
Yeah, it was great
Thanks
being
for having
here.
us.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being part of the 6.5. We are on the road here in Chicago at Microsoft Ignite 2024. Hit that subscribe button, be part of our community, join us for all of our coverage here at the event, and of course, all of our content on the 6.5. But for Patrick and myself, it's time to say goodbye.